We have already studied about the various components required to build an IoT application, and the required components include the sensors, actuators, and the main component of the IoT application is the microcontroller, which performs the transfer of messages as well as whatever the processing is required, that also will be done by the microcontroller itself. So there are different boards available, microcontroller boards that are available, and the most commonly and widely used microcontroller board is the UNO board. So now previously we have studied how the microcontroller can be programmed, that is through the ThingSpeak. ThingSpeak, it is an open source API, and it is a application also, and which can be used to store and retrieve the data from the things using the HTTP. So about the ThingSpeak we have studied previously, and some HTTP methods like the get, put, and post, delete methods are used for posting the data, that is sending, receiving, and deleting the information. So through HTTP, the ThingSpeak talks to the internet. So about the ThingSpeak we have studied previously, that is the few APIs that are supported by the ThingSpeak are like this: the ThingTweet, ThingHTTP, Tweet Control, and React, TalkBack, Time Control, etc. So through any one of these, we can make the communication happen between the microcontroller and the internet. So we have studied about these things. Now let us see how to program the microcontroller. That is, we are using we can use any of the boards. It is not compulsory that we need to make use of the Arduino UNO, but any other, that is Raspberry Pi also you can use, because however the microcontroller is an on-chip computer. It is a small computer which includes the various components like the input device, output devices, and even including the processor and a small amount of memory, etc. So it includes all the components on chip itself. So that is why microcontroller is also known as a on-chip computer. So you can make use of any type of Arduino, that is Arduino UNO is also available. So you can make use of any board. But now the hardware, as the hardware is concerned, it is fine. But now how about the software? So the softwares are required to program the board, to program the microcontroller. So how to program the microcontroller? So in this case, or here in our presentation, I am using the Arduino board. So you should know how to send and receive the data to the Arduino by using the ThingSpeak. So you can make use of any API, but again the most widely used is ThingSpeak. Because it has many advantages. So before you want to communicate or the program the microcontroller through the ThingSpeak, you should know how to read and write to via the ThingSpeak. So for this you need to create a channel. So before creating the channel, the application should send a request to the API using the HTTP request. As I told you earlier, that is use the get, post, put, delete depending on your application. So whatever is required, whatever operation you want to perform, based on that you can make use of either get or post or delete, etc. So the application which wants to program the Arduino should send a request to the ThingSpeak, and you can create a channel and select the channel to update. Then select required API key. So this API key, it is a 16-bit key which you need to have two APIs if you are working in using a private channel, or if it is public then you can use a single channel. So here you can see the use of some HTTP methods like the post. So this example shows that how to send the data to a server to create or update the resource. Now you suppose if you want to make any changes or update with a particular data, then how to do this? So in that case, you should make use of the HTTP method called post, and the host here is the API thingspeak.com, and after that the connection will be closed. If you want to make any updation, then this request has to be sent to via the method called post, and then the connection will be closed. So for writing or reading, if you want to read the data, then you have to, from the server, you have to send the request to the server, then in that case use post, otherwise use get. If you want to read the information from the server, then use the get method, otherwise use the post method. Then here the content type, it indicates a way of posting the data. That is, if your data is a non-binary data, then make use of this particular format, or otherwise if it is a binary data, if you want to post anything, then make use of multipart /form. This should be used for the binary type of data. Then the content length, it indicates how many number of characters that the message has. So that should be mentioned in the content length. And to find out the write API key or read API key, click on the channel, select from my channel, select the channel to update, and then select the API keys tab. So in this way, a read or write key will be generated, and through that key, the reading and writing to a ThingSpeak channel will happen. So this is how first you need to make use of ThingSpeak API, which is an open source API to perform read or write operation through this ThingSpeak. Now we will see some examples, one or two examples of how to program the microcontroller. So now how to program the microcontroller is, that depends, or through the ThingSpeak, if you want to program the microcontroller, then you need to write a C or C++ program. It is left to you whether if you want, you can choose C program, C language to write the program, or C++. Now programming the microcontroller, it means that the microcontroller is ready to perform some operation for you. So now what you want to do with the microcontroller? So basically, in order to process the data, the microcontroller, it requires some data. That is, either you can read the data, or else sometimes the microcontroller has the data with it, and the processed data has to be displayed onto the output devices. So first you should know, before writing the program, you should know how the reading and writing through the microcontroller, in and out of the microcontroller, will be performed. That is how it should be done, how the reading and writing operations can be done using the microcontroller. Now let us see a simple example. Let's write a C program to interface with the serial monitor. Now how the sending and receiving of the information or the data with the microcontroller will be done. So this needs the use of a serial device called the monitor. Serial monitor, it is an area which is available with the IDE, microcontroller IDE. It is an area where you can find the message that you want to send in and out of the microcontroller. So that will be done through the use of the serial monitor. Suppose if you want to send some data to the microcontroller, the data that you want to send to the microcontroller will be displayed on the serial monitor, and after displaying, you can check what data you want to send and what exactly you have typed or you have sent. And suppose if it has to go out of the microcontroller to the any other device, then before the data is sent to the particular device, you can check the message that you are sending out of the microcontroller using the serial monitor. So in this way, the serial monitor, it is an area where you can find the message that goes in and out of the microcontroller. So before you make use of the serial monitor, it requires the serial monitor, as the name indicates, it follows the serial communication. So the serial communication, it happens via the using of an SPI protocol, that is serial peripheral interface protocol is necessary for the communication. So there are this serial communication happens using either UART or USART. So UART, it indicates this is the universal that is the communication can happen either through UART or USART. UART is universal asynchronous receiver bar transmitter, that is the same serial interface can be used to send and receive the can send as well as receive the data. And why it is called asynchronous? Because asynchronous, there is a difference between asynchronous and synchronous type of data transfer. That is always asynchronous, it is not at all related to clock. There is no fixed time during which the data should be sent. It has no specific time. Asynchronous data, it is without the time bonding, whereas the synchronous, it is always associated with a clock. The data is associated with a clock in case of synchronous transfer, whereas in asynchronous, no clock is associated with the data transfer. There is no time limitation. The data can be sent, asynchronous means without any time binding, the data can be sent, whereas synchronous means it has a time limitation. So, using USART, you can perform either synchronous or this can be used for both, that is the synchronous as well as asynchronous data transfer as well as receiving, whereas the UART should be used only when the data transfer takes place through asynchronous manner. So in this way, the serial peripheral interfaces can make use of the USART, either UART. So in this way, the serial transmission can be performed, and before the data transfer or before the communication takes place, you have to make sure that about the baud rate. That is, the baud rate has to be selected. The data transmission or the communication can happen with a different baud rate. But for our Arduino board or for the Arduino microcontroller, we have to select the baud rate as 9600, and this will be initialized with a function called serial.begin. But let us tell me about the first sentence, that is, before you start writing your program, one thing you should note is it makes use of two loops. That is, one is two functions. One is the setup function which is required for initialization. So your program will start with a setup function. So only you can find while setup, which will be followed by while loop function. So these two functions are essential. But apart from these two, there is one more function which I have not used in this program, that is called the delay function. So the programs related to the microcontrollers or Arduino make use of three functions, basically the setup function, loop function as well as the delay function. So the setup function is required for the initialization, because if you want to send the data in and out of the Arduino, then it requires the initialization. That is, we should indicate that with which baud rate the data transfer should take place. But before using this term baud rate, let me tell what is baud rate. So baud rate, it indicates how many number of bits per second. The baud rate, it indicates how many number of data bits are sent in 1 second or in per unit time is known as baud rate. So this appropriate baud rate has to be selected, and usually the 9600 baud rate is used for the data transfer. Now you have to select that, and this initialization of the baud rate will be done with the help of the serial.begin function. That is followed by some message. Now we want to send some data. Now this is an example of a program to interface with the serial monitor. So through the serial monitor, or by making use of the serial monitor, either we can send the data to the microcontroller or from microcontroller to any other device. So now we will see some messages printed on the that is the serial monitor. So for that we have to first send some data. So we are sending some messages through serial.println. So serial.println is consisting of the hello ordinary message, Arduino message. Then after that serial.print, this message is I am a great fan, and serial.println, the next statement is serial.println, this consists of I like Arduino. Now you know the difference between the print and the println statements. That is, since we have used the second statement as serial.println, that displays hello Arduino, that is, you can see here, first it prints hello Arduino. After that, because of the println statement, the next message in the next statement will be printed on the next line. Because of the println, it displays that message onto the next line. So I am a great fan will be displayed at the next line. But after that, this second statement is followed by again one more println. So because of which I like Arduino will be printed on the same line, and after that it makes one more or the cursor will be shifted to the next line. So in this way, this program, it is sending message to the microcontroller and using the serial monitor. So on the serial monitor, the output message or the message will be displayed like this: hello Arduino, I am a great fan, I like Arduino. So these messages are printed like this, and automatically the loop function will be followed by this. So what is the use of the loop function? Setup function is used to initialize the serial communication with some fixed baud rate, and that baud rate, there are two terms related to this data transfer. One is baud rate and second one is bit rate. So what is the difference between the baud rate and the bit rate? Anybody knows? So generally, or in general terms, we can say that both are same, but still there is a difference. That is, baud rate, it always indicates the number of data transfer, the number of bits transferred in per unit time, whereas bit rate, it indicates the number of signals transferred in per unit time. So now how these two are related? So there is a formula to calculate the bit rate. So bit rate is equal to baud rate into number of bits transferred. So in this way, before you start communicating with the microcontroller, it's a baud rate, that is the object with which the microcontroller is connected. So you need to fix up the data transfer rate among the microcontroller and that serial object. So for the data transfer, you should fix up some baud rate, and usually the data transfer takes place by using the 9600 as the baud rate. It is a standard one. There are different data rates, baud rates with which the data can be transferred, but still it is the most commonly used and appropriate one for the data transfer. So we are using 9600 in our program. Now let us see one more example. So this program is to send the data to the Arduino using the serial monitor. Now we want to send the data to the Arduino. So again, what data you are sending to the Arduino, how you will know? Because while typing, you can make any mistake. So if you send it without using the serial monitor, you will not come to know what data you have sent to the microcontroller or Arduino. So you should again make use of the serial monitor. That is why I told you, whether the data transfer is into the microcontroller or Arduino, or it is out of the microcontroller or Arduino, you should make use of the serial monitor, because serial monitor is the area where you can find the displayed messages. You can read the messages displayed on the serial monitor. Right? You should make use of this serial monitor. Now in this program, or through this program, we are sending the data to the Arduino. Now this again, as usual, the program begins with a void setup. Setup is a function that is used for initializing the communication, serial communication. Then here we need to initialize the baud rate. The baud rate that is used is 9600, and for that we make use of the serial dot, and after that it is followed by the void loop. But before that, you can find the use of a variable of type character, and the variable is in. So in is a variable where which is used to store the messages or the alphabets that are displayed or sent to the microcontroller. So in is a character type variable which includes the data sent to the microcontroller through the serial monitor. So in the while loop, the statements written in the loop, you know that already what is the use of a loop. The loop is used for execution of repetitive statements, or execution of the statements in a repeated manner. So here also the loop function serves the same purpose. That is, the statements written within the loop will be executed repetitively. So here the loop consists of a while loop. Within that, while serial dot available is greater than 0, then in is equal to serial dot read. Then the same data will be displayed onto the serial monitor. That is, the data will be first read, and the same data, whatever you have read, that will be displayed onto the serial monitor. So what is the use of available function? I told you that the data that you enter, that you want to send to the microcontroller, this should happen using the serial monitor. So you are typing some messages, alphabets as a message. Then these messages or these characters, whatever you have entered, that will be stored in a variable called in. And if the data or the alphabets in terms of messages are available, then only that should be stored in the in. Otherwise, if you do not enter any, or if you do not hit any keys from the keyboard, then how the data will be sent, or how it will be stored in the in variable. So this is not at all possible. In that case, in will, if you don't hit any key from the keyboard, then in will not have any data. It doesn't have any data only. So in that case, it checks for the availability of the alphabets or the characters. So whatever you want to, the message, whatever, or the characters that you want to read should be stored in the in, and the microcontroller should know whether the in carries some characters or not. So for that, it makes use of a function called available. That is why it is checking for the availability of the characters in the variable in. So if serial dot available is greater than 0, it means that if it is greater than 0, then it means that, or it indicates that the in variable carries or it has stored some characters in that. So then serial dot read. That is, in will have now the data read through the serial monitor. Then now this character or this variable will have the characters read, and that will be stored in, and the same serial dot print, the values of in will be displayed using serial dot print. So in this way, the data will be sent to the microcontroller, and what data it has sent to the microcontroller, you know it, but other persons, if you want, anybody who wants to know that what you have sent, or for yourself at least, you should know, in order to verify what data you have sent to the microcontroller, that will be displayed on the serial monitor by using serial dot print. So the characters that are stored in variable will be displayed onto the monitor. So this second program, it indicates how the data will be sent to the microcontroller by using again serial monitor. So these two are the examples of interfacing the serial monitor with the microcontroller. So whether you want to send or receive the data into the microcontroller, then you can send it or you can receive it by using or with the help of the serial like this. Example, third program, it indicates how the data will be read from a sensor. So we are an analog sensor. The sensors are the components which read the physical quantities from the environment, and if it requires, then the data will be stored at the sensor location itself, or else sometimes it needs to be transferred to the location where its processing will be done. So in this way, many times the sensor, or usually the sensors, will be sending the data to the microcontroller, because the microcontroller is the component which processes that information or which processes that data. So there should be always a communication between the sensor and the microcontroller, or vice versa. So in this way, whenever any sensor wants to send the data to the microcontroller, then how it will be done. So this particular example, it shows how the sensor sends the analog sensor. This particular example shows how the analog sensor can communicate with the microcontroller. So in this way, now you can see that the analog sensor pin is also mentioned. Pin A0 is mentioned. So again, this should happen using the or via the serial monitor only. Now let us see, again the program has started with a setup function, and in this again set up the baud rate using serial.begin function. Then that is followed by the loop. In the loop, continuously the sensor will be sending the data. So for that, it makes use of a variable called again reading. The reading is an integer type variable where the input through A0 pin, that will be stored. The analog sensor will be sensing always or reading the data, physical quantity, some physical quantity from the environment. Now for example, consider the temperature data only. So it has sensed the pin A0 of analog sensor has sensed some value of temperature, and that will be stored in the variable called reading. The reading is an integer variable. Now if you are considering the example of a temperature sensor, then understand that temperature value will be stored in the reading through analog read function. So through the A0 pin of the analog sensor, that will be stored in the reading variable. Then through serial.println, that value, that is reading value, that is in this case I told you we are considering a temperature sensor. Then the temperature value will be displayed onto the serial monitor. Then if you want to have a delay in between, because in order to get the next value, if you want to see some the old value of the temperature for some time, then you can take a break. So taking break, or it is nothing but using of the delay function. So create some delay using the delay function, because previously I had told you that the programs, while programming the microcontroller or the Arduino programs, will make use of three functions, basically the setup function, then loop function and the delay function. So with these three functions, you can write any programs, any type of programs with respect to the microcontroller. So if you want to see some gap between the previous value and the current value, then create delay or make use of the delay function. So in this case, after reading one temperature value, it will take some time, and after some break, that is after 500 milliseconds of delay, it will display another temperature value. So in this way, continuously the analog sensor will be sending the temperature value through the A0 pin, and that pin, through that A0 pin, the serial monitor is receiving that, and it is continuously displaying the temperature with a break of 500 milliseconds. So in this way, how the sensor can send the data to the microcontroller, that you can understand with the help of this program. So now we have studied about the three programs, that is how microcontroller can send as well as receive the data through the serial monitor, and also even the sensors can also send the data to the microcontroller. I hope now there is no programming of the microcontroller, because you people are most worried about the hardware parts. So there is no such difficulty with respect to the hardware parts. You have understood, that is your imagination, that hardware is a tough part of this subject. Don't think like that. So in order to interface the hardware, you need the software, because for the interfacing or for the programming, you need this. You need to make use of the software, and the softwares that are used for programming of microcontrollers are easy and they are cheaper, etc. So you can make, however, you are very much familiar with the C or C++. So you can make use of C or C++ to write the programs for the microcontroller. So there is no difficulty, I guess. Now, you know that any IoT application is a combination of hardware and software. We have discussed many times about the hardware components, and about the software, just now I told you, that is C or C++ language can be used to program, and the programs are also very easy, because now you know that there are three functions, and using these three functions only you can write any type of program. Now, the other part of this IoT application, any IoT application is carrying more weightage, or it is becoming, the IoT applications are becoming very popular only because of the internet connectivity. That is, the data can be sent to any other IoT application or wherever it is required through the internet. The main attraction of the IoT applications are the internet connectivity. We can send the data at any time, anywhere, without any restriction. So this is the main, that is the attractive feature of the IoT application. That is why you can find many smart applications now. That is the smart home, smart office, smart city, etc. So everything is becoming smart only because of IoT. That you understand. So then you will understand what is the importance of the IoT. And the major component behind the IoT is always the microcontroller. You have to remember this. And microcontroller is the hardware component. So now programming part is one side, and the interconnect connectivity is on the other side. Now we have to, as I told you, IoT applications are becoming more popular only because of the internet connectivity. We can connect so many things. So by the 2020, by the end of 2020, you know that the designers are planning to include 50,000 objects or things in the internet. So these things can communicate with each other only through internet. So any IoT application should have this capacity, that is the internet internet, connecting to the internet or internetizing your IoT application is very, very important. Now, how the internet connectivity can be done for any IoT application. So, for that you should know how to connect your microcontroller with the internet. But above all, what the users need, what are the users' expectations. Now, for example, if you develop any IoT application, and what the users are expecting is they want to control the IoT application model with the help of their mobile. Remote controlling of the IoT application they want. So this is their expectation. They want to connect their IoT application with your mobile. So how this connectivity can be done. In order to connect your IoT app, or in order to control your IoT application with your mobile, you should know how the microcontroller within your IoT application has to communicate with the internet, with your mobile. So that we will study, because the users want to have the control with their mobile device. Any IoT application developed can be controlled with the help of the mobile. So for that we should know how the microcontroller can be connected with mobile device. So for that there are two ways, that is using the Bluetooth or else via the USB cable. So how this we can represent it in another way, that is, one is the analog control and the other is the digital control. Using Bluetooth, if you want to connect your microcontroller to your mobile device, that will happen using Bluetooth, and Bluetooth, it is we can say a digital tool. Then the second method, that is by using the USB interface or USB cable, this is an analog way of data transfer or having the communication between the microcontroller and the mobile device. So let us see how the Bluetooth is used, how this Bluetooth technology, about the Bluetooth technology we have studied in the previous classes. Now let us see how this Bluetooth can be used to have the communication between the microcontroller and the mobile device. So there are pins, digital pins called the RX and the TX pins for your microcontroller as well as for your Bluetooth device. Let it be your mobile itself. So it has both RX and TX pins, and even the microcontroller also have both TX and RX pins. TX indicates the transmitter and RX indicates for receiving. And now you should ensure that before the data transfer takes place, you should ensure that the cross wiring should happen. That is, make sure that cross the wires by connecting RX pin of Bluetooth device has to be connected and vice versa. That is, if you connect RX pin from your Bluetooth device to the TX pin on the microcontroller, and the TX pin from your Bluetooth device should be connected to the RX pin of the microcontroller. So in this way, the cross connection should happen between the microcontroller and the mobile device or the Bluetooth device. Then this is about the hardware connection. Then after that, it requires the software. So the Bluetooth FPP software has to be installed in your mobile phones, and after that search for the Bluetooth device, pairing should happen, then after that the communication will become easy. So in this way you can connect your microcontroller with your Bluetooth device or the mobile phone. This is first method, that is by making use of the Bluetooth device. Then the second method is by using the USB cable. That is, in order to have the communication or in order to internetize your microcontroller, either it should have a communication module, which we have studied in the first unit. There are various communication modules, like it may be an Ethernet or it may be a Wi-Fi module or GSM, etc. So a particular communication module should be there. Otherwise, if your microcontroller wants to connect to the internet, either it should have a communication module or else you should make your PC or your mobile itself as a gateway. So for that, you should make use of the USB cable. So through any of these methods, you can connect your microcontroller or Arduino to the internet. I hope you understood, that is how to connect or how to have the internet connectivity to an IoT application. However, the microcontroller is the essential component which we can call it as the brain of the system. So the microcontroller should be connected to the internet. So for this, your Arduino board should have the communication modules. These communication modules are available in terms of chips. So either you can have a Wi-Fi module, or else you can have the GSM, etc. So those should be available. Otherwise, I think I have given some. So either you can make use of the Wi-Fi as a communication module, or else GSM module, or else Ethernet shield. One of this is necessary depending on whether you want to have wired connection or a wireless connection. If you want to have wired connection, then you can make use of Ethernet shield. Otherwise, you can make use of the Wi-Fi for wireless connection or GSM for wireless connection. Then this is first method is either use some communication module, or else if your the board, if your Arduino board do not have the modules, communication modules attached to that board, then how to have the internet connectivity? So in that case, what you do, make your PC or your mobile as the gateway by using the USB cable. So in this way, you can have the USB interface with your mobile or computer or your PC, then start having the internet connection or start the communication with the outside world. So for example, if you are using or if you want to make your mobile Android phone as your gateway, then you need the cables which supports the OTG service. Then any Arduino microcontroller, that is the microcontroller is fine, any version of that, then use Arduino USB cable, then install the Arduino Studio. This has to be installed, and this makes easy communication between your mobile, your microcontroller and the internet. So in this way, there are two methods to have the internet connectivity to our microcontroller board. Have the communication module available on chip, on the board itself, on the Arduino board or Raspberry Pi, or else through that communication module, your microcontroller will be connected to the internet, or else make your mobile phones or PC as gateways by using the USB cable. In this way, you can connect your microcontroller with the internet. Then there are different ways to connect Arduino to the internet, that is the direct and the indirect method. So the direct method is as I told you, using of communication module is called direct method, and this has some advantages, like it is more convenient, because if you use Wi-Fi module, then wiring is required. So that is an advantage of using Wi-Fi module with your Arduino on the same board, and then you can move around your Arduino. You can move your Arduino board anywhere because there is no wiring problem, and also it is low cost and energy intensive. So all IoT components, you can say, including the sensors, actuators, all are including the nodes, all are energy intensive only. And for the connectivity, if it is connection oriented, then you can make use of Ethernet shield, otherwise use GSM module or Wi-Fi module to have the interconnect connectivity for your microcontroller. So this shows how the communication modules can make the great wonders in the IoT field, or in building the DIY project. What do you mean by DIY? Do it yourself. That is, you can build your own IoT applications if you know what are its hardware and software requirements. Moreover, if you know how to program the microcontroller. So, if you know these things, you can build your own IoT applications, which are also known as the DIY project. So, in this example, you can see how the Wi-Fi modules, the example is given here, ESP8266. So, this is a Wi-Fi module, how it can be connected with the microcontroller. So, microcontroller that is used here is, in this example, is Arduino Uno, and this is how it can be connected. You can see the TX and the RX pins of the microcontroller, and also the RX and TX pins of this communication module. So, you can have this module connected with the microcontroller on the same board. So, this is a direct method because there will be a direct connection between the chip, the communication module and Wi-Fi module and the microcontroller. So, if it is available and connected like this, then it is called the direct method. Then if you do not, if there is no provision to have the communication module on board with a microcontroller, then you can make use of the USB cable and provide the connectivity for your microcontroller. So, for the indirect method, it requires a cable, then it makes use of the SPI protocol, that is Serial Peripheral Interface Protocol, and other than that we require the Wi-Shield library and Wi-Fi Shield library. These are the library functions that are required for programming the microcontroller. So, there are you can say two methods of having the internet connectivity to the microcontroller boards: direct connection and indirect connection. So, let us start with the third unit, which indicates about the resource management in the IoT. So, resource management, we know that actually for computer itself, always the resources are, there is a scarcity of the resources, and when you develop any IoT application, then also we can find the resource management or management of the resources is quite difficult, because as we are familiar with the IoT applications, the nodes that are present in the IoT applications, they are very small and tiny and have very less power to operate. That is why we can say that they are very much hungry of energy, because their power is very limited, because most of them are battery operated. Most of the IoT systems are battery operated. That is why they are always power hungry. And moreover, for the data collection, data transmission and processing of the information, so everything happens at the node side and it requires more power. So, that is why resource management is quite difficult and challenging in managing the IoT applications. So, about these things we are going to discuss in the unit 3. So, let us study about the clustering and what are software agents, what is data synchronization and why it is required, and how the clustering is done, which clustering protocol is best suited for the IoT applications, the types of network architecture, and what is the agility, and what is autonomy enabling, what is autonomy and agility for the Internet of Things, and technical requirements for satisfying the new demands in the production, and evolution of RFID based EPC network to an agent based IoT, and lastly agents for the behavior of objects. So, this particular unit focuses on the resource management. In order to develop any efficient IoT application, how the nodes should be and how they should be managed, etc. We are going to discuss in the third unit. Let us start with the third unit. So even though the IoT applications are becoming more popular nowadays, but still there are few challenges with respect to its technical and operational, you can say, the activities. There are many challenges with respect to its techniques as far as its technology is concerned, as far as its operations are concerned. Now, why these challenges are arising? So these challenges are arising basically because of the management of increasing number of objects. As I told you, by the end of 2020, to include 50,000 objects in the IoT. So these number of objects are increasing day by day, and after 2021 again they have different plan, that is their plan is to increase some more or include number of more number of objects in the IoT. So this is increasing, that is, since the number of objects are increasing day by day, its management is also becoming difficult. And the next reason why there is a difficulty in managing the IoT applications are a movement towards their increasing autonomy. Every object need to operate independently, even though it is connected to the network, but still its operation is independent. So lot of autonomy is given to the systems. So that is why this is one more reason for why the IoT applications are becoming challenging. And the next is relatively limited capabilities. Above all, every node, every sensor node, it has very less power and less capacity, but the activities that it has to perform is more. So in real time, at least, the sensors, actuators have to play a major role. So their activities are more, whereas those objects have limited capacities. So because of these reasons, the resource management is becoming very difficult day by day. As the number of objects that are to be included in the IoT is becoming more day by day or increasing day by day, and because everything or every object, it should act independently or should have enough autonomy, and also because of their limited capabilities, the resource management has become difficult. Now let us see how to make it easy, or how to overcome these, or how to address these challenges, or how to overcome these difficulties. So there are some techniques. There are some techniques which are aimed at addressing these challenges. So the major three things, or the three topics, or you can say the three techniques, are making use of the clusters, combine few nodes into some groups called clusters, make a cluster, the sensor nodes which are located geographically very near can be grouped into one cluster. So form the clusters so that it becomes easier to transfer the data among themselves, and after that make use of software agents. This is one more trial or effort to overcome the challenge. Make use of the software agents to represent and manage the objects as well as the users, which with the software agents will take care of managing both, that is the objects or the things and also the users. And the third technique that will be used is data synchronization. So let the objects have the data synchronization among them. So in the next class we will see how this how the clusters are formed, what do you mean by clustering, and how it is implemented in WSN, that is wireless sensor networks, and what are software agents, how do they perform their job, and finally what is data synchronization and why it is necessary. So these three techniques are aimed at resolving the difficulties that are arising because of some or the other reasons in the IoT applications. So let us stop here, and in the next class we are going to discuss about the clusters, how the clusters are formed, what is clustering, how the clusters are formed, what are the principles that are used in forming the clusters, and what are known as software agents, what is the requirement of having the software agents in the IoT applications, and finally what is data synchronization and why it is necessary. So about these things we are going to discuss in the next class. Thank you.